Hey guys, Chris Clothier here, joining you for another podcast of The Grind. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's a sunny Friday here in Memphis, Tennessee. Much better than some of the ones we've had in the past. It's been a little coming out of the ice storm, coming out of the big deep freeze that hit the south, and ready to serve up some heat again with another great podcast. And this one's going to be coming from. I've got some inspiration for this week. It's coming from some actual questions I'm getting, which again. When I say that, sometimes I'll get a question and I want to answer it, but this is one that I keep getting asked over and over and over again. And then it popped up in Bigger Pockets, where I had the chance to answer some of these questions in Bigger Pockets. And then, believe it or not, when I went online to do a little bit of research to kind of, again, see if anything had changed, if my thoughts or views might have changed based on doing some updated reading, I found multiple instances where other people are taking the advice I give, which I'm totally cool with, but then they are just repurposing it as content of their own to give out to other investors, and I'm not cool with that. So I decided, you know what? We're laying this down in a podcast. We are going to put this out there in perpetuity, so everybody can always see and know that I'm the one who gives this advice. And it comes from experience. Nobody else can give you the same advice from my experience. They can always give you the same advice from theirs, it was totally cool. But yeah, literally the advice I'm about to give, I found on another guy's website, and he didn't even bother to change any of the verbiage. Can you believe that? Isabella behind the camera here, she's looking at me like I'm crazy. She had no idea where I was going today because I did not tell her what today's podcast was about. I told her I had my own idea. She put ideas up on the board, and I kind of laughed and said, I've got my own, get out of the way. I've got something else I'm going to do today. And she was like, not happy with me. Right now, she's looking at me like the look she's giving me right now. But just the same, I said, I've got something important to talk about because this is advice I've been giving for over a decade. But what I was going to do today is I was going to take this advice I give to turnkey or passive real estate investors. So this is exact advice I give people. But today I'm going to take it up a notch because I'm not only going to give you the advice about the questions you need to ask in order to find a high quality provider, make sure that your expectations are going to be met from whomever it is you buy from, wherever it is you buy, but also I'm going to give you answers. I'm going to give you the answers you're looking to hear from them and understand how easy it is for salespersons or anybody selling anything to kind of manipulate the answer they're giving you. So I'm going to give you good advice on the questions to ask, the answers you should expect to receive, and how to make sure you follow up with other questions to root out, the bad actors, the people that may not be a good fit for you, even though it seems like it fits, but you want to make sure that you've got the right advice going in. So this is going to be advice heavy, and I'm excited because it's a topic that I care about tremendously. I spent a lot of years in the turnkey industry. I wouldn't say developing the best practices. It's just we've learned a lot. We spent our first decade not doing this very good. We may have been the best company out there, but we weren't the best version of us. That took time, that took knowledge, that took experience. And so, we may have spent the first 7-8 years in business really learning how to be good at what we did. And then we spent the last 12 to 13 years of business perfecting and getting better and better and better. And we're still not perfect. So there's still room to get better. So let me take this back to the start of what it is I want to talk about. Make sure you fully understand where I'm going today. I've got about 20 questions here that you as an investor, you must ask if you want to successfully hire a turnkey company to buy a house from, or if you want to hire a property management company and you're 1,000 miles away from your houses. These are the questions you need to ask. And there'll be some little nuance to this depending on what company you're looking to hire, what service you need. But a high quality turnkey company is going to provide management for you anyway. So, I think that these questions are really pertinent to everybody that might be listening to the podcast today. Let me go ahead and jump into this for you guys. And before I give you the first question, I'm going to give you some advice. If you've got a pad and pen, if you listen to this in the car, make sure you go back and listen to this again. When you're someplace, you can write this down because this is important. Write these questions down. Make sure you understand this. Listen to this podcast over and over again if you have to really understand the questions and the answers you're looking to get. I give people advice always that when you ask questions, make sure you you ask questions in a way that you can do the mirror of that question, meaning, you want a reflection back to you. So a great example of that is, don't ask somebody what their vacancy rate is for their property management company without later in the conversation asking them what their occupancy rate is. Now those are mirror questions. Those are opposites of one another. So if somebody says, well, we're about this number for vacancy and I'm about that number for occupancy, and they don't add up, they don't match each other, that's a problem. Just the fact that somebody gives you the question or the answer of we're about something or maybe or close to or kind of, those are not reasons to not do business with somebody, but they're certainly red flags. You want somebody that knows their data. And then if somebody gives you like super, super specific data, like really specific data, understand that when people lie, they get really specific because it to them, it adds credence to what they're saying. So really specific data can be real, and it can also be made up on the fly. You need to make sure that you are taking notes and writing everything down. And then whenever you're done, when you got asked all these questions, you got all the answers, go back and do your research. Make sure you can verify this online. And lastly, before you ever buy from anybody, in my opinion, you should always try and meet them face to face. I tell investors that buy houses out of town all the time that the house is just sticks and bricks. It does it matter? Sure. But it matters less than where it's located and who's going to manage it for you going forward. Does everything you've heard, all the data you've written down about a company, does it match what you see when you go to meet them personally, face to face? Does the what you've been sold, does it match what you're seeing when you go visit them? It's really important. So these questions are just a beginning. These are not the end. It's not the end all be all. They're just the beginning to you being successful as an investor. All right. So the first question, are you an investor? You should never, ever do business with a management company or a turnkey company that doesn't invest in real estate themselves. I illustrate that with a story. Many years ago, I was speaking on stage in San Francisco, and there was a guy selling Detroit. He lived in San Francisco. He was selling properties in Detroit as turnkey. And he gave a really slick presentation. It was good. He comes off stage. There's somebody else up there speaking now about their city where they're doing, where they do business. And I was there to speak about Memphis. So I pulled the guy aside. I was like, man, that was really good. I was like, how many properties do you own there in Detroit? And I will never forget. He just kind of laughed and said, I don't buy this crap. He's like, I don't buy this stuff. He's like, I just sell it. He's like, I invest out here in California. He's like, I would never buy this stuff. And, to be direct, that pissed me off. I was like, I can't believe you're up here selling this so, eloquently and making this in such a big, such a great investment, but yet you wouldn't do it yourself. So it's not just, are you an investor, but do you invest where you're selling? Do you invest where you're managing? These are important questions that you want to ask. Most of the time you'll get the answer yes, but invite people to tell you their story. Tell me, how many do you own? How long have you been buying here? What do you love about this market or this neighborhood or whatever? This is a great way just to engage in conversation with a seller. And I follow that up with a question of, do you own in the exact neighborhood you're selling? I think that's important. If somebody, if somebody says, no, I would never own here, or, I don't do single families, I only own multifamilies, but I sell all the single families. These aren't exactly bad questions. It doesn't mean that you don't do business with them, but it's red flags. It should bring the question up in your mind of why. Why don't you own in the same places that you're selling? Why isn't this something that you look to develop yourself? The next question, how many investors do you work with? So I think it's really important today that people understand that with the advent of the internet, storytelling, really good marketing, social media does a great job of storytelling. Anybody can make it look as if they are highly experienced, been doing something for a long time. They've got a lot of credibility behind them based on the story that they're telling. But the reality is that, and I just told you this at the very beginning, it took us almost a decade to become even decent at what we do. It takes you that long to figure out the subtle, the nuances, the ins, the outs, the negotiations, what investors really want and what their long-term, most companies call them tenants. To us, you already know this, they're residents, but what does that long-term resident want? It takes you a long time to get this, really dialed in. So if you're talking to somebody that says, well, I deal with, a few hundred investors maybe, and I've been doing this, for the past 5 years. I started in 17 or whatever, in 2017. I mean, as an investor, there's nothing wrong with that again, but is that in your best interest? Because you're still in the learning phase. You're still in the test phase. You're still in I'm the guinea pig phase. And in some cases, that might be exactly what you are. And you want to determine, who is this person? Are they investors? How long have they been investing? How many other investors like myself do they work with? I mean, these are things that you're just building out an overall picture of. This is a great question I ask. Do you own all facets of the operation, all sides, everything that goes on within within your four walls? So in other words, do you buy your own properties, or do you sell somebody else's stuff? Because if you sell somebody else's stuff, you're not financially vested in this, and that's a major red flag. Do you buy the properties, but you outsource somebody else is doing all the renovations to it, so you don't really have any control over it? Do you buy it and renovate it, but yet you're going to give somebody else to do the management? The reason why, and I found this out over 2 decades, the reason why this doesn't work, and I will debate anybody that says that you want separate companies for all this, when you have separate companies that do all these services, they all point the finger back at someone else. What ultimately leads to success and the closest alignment of interest with a turnkey investor is when a company is responsible for every piece of the process. And so therefore there are no fingers to point. It is either it's right or it's wrong. Either I hit your expectations or I didn't. And that is, in my opinion, after 2 decades, the best way for an investor to hit their expectations is to only deal with companies that own their own properties, that renovate their own properties, they only sell their own properties, and they manage their own properties. That is the company that will most likely align with your best interest and hit your expectations. Everything else leads to confusion, in my experience. So, do you offer rental or maintenance guarantees? This was really hot back in the, I'd say 2009 to 2015 timeframe. It was one of those things that a lot of companies offered guarantees. They advertised it. It was in magazines. It was on whatever ads they were doing, whatever direct mail they were sending out. And I began to point out pretty early on to investors. And of course, this is a time when we're coming out of our beginning phase. We're getting into we're learning how to do this properly phase. And I started telling investors at the time, if a company offers guarantees, and that's what they're selling, they're really pushing the fact that, hey, we guarantee you that you'll get rent for the first year, all 12 months. We guarantee you that you'll have no maintenance that first 12 months. There's one company out there that I guarantee you I'll buy your house back for what you paid for it. I pointed out to investors that any company that renovates a property to the standard it should be renovated to in the first place, you shouldn't expect to have maintenance in the first year. Why are they offering a guarantee? The guarantee is what they're selling you. They're not selling you a good property. They're just selling you a guarantee. Same thing with rental. If you know how to manage a property and you're good at property management, you're good at vetting the applicants that are trying to live in a property, then you are going to have a high propensity to keep a property occupied for longer than a year. Why would you offer a first-year rental guarantee? That should be a given. And then the same thing with the buybacks. Why would you offer to buy property back from an investor? If you're spending your time to get to know somebody and you're matching up with what their needs are, why would you have to offer that guarantee? If you're a high-quality company and somebody faces a life-changing emergency 6 months into buying a property and they really need to sell it quickly, but you've built a relationship with them, wouldn't you be the person that stands in and says, I'll take this off your hands? I'll come back. I'll make you whole. I want you to go and take care of your. Now, you don't have to do that. There's no business that says you have to do that. And that's probably the easiest guarantee to justify, but still, why? Why is it there? Other than to sell the guarantee, to get somebody to not pay attention to the numbers, not pay attention to the problems of the investment, but only to pay attention to the guarantee. So I tell investors, guarantees are really, really dangerous. If you want to do business with a company that says, I guarantee you no maintenance for 12 months, or I guarantee you no rent, ask them, perfect, put that on year 2. Put that on year 3. I mean, by year 3, I imagine there'll be some maintenance on this. Why don't you guarantee me no maintenance in year 3? Because I shouldn't have any in year 1. I really shouldn't have any in year 2. We did some we did some data research, and of course, when you're managing, this year we're going to approach 8,000 properties. When you're, that's a valuation of over $1.5 billion, and some of them we've been managing for well over a decade. We have data stretching back now over 15 years. We can look at it and say that a properly renovated property, you should have less than $100 in maintenance that first year. And really, if everything goes right, you should have no maintenance at all. Second year, maybe $100. Third year, we can show that it'll be less than $150. We're able to show that real maintenance costs don't kick in on average. And I'm talking, a mean number that I'm giving you here is, it doesn't even reach the 4-figure mark of $1,000 until well after year 5. And so, there's always going to be those instances where that happens, but it should be rare. As an investor, you should expect a very consistent, reliable experience, and guarantees don't play into that. The only guarantee is that matters out there is that we know how to do what we do really, really well, and you should expect relatively low maintenance, relatively low vacancies, and you should expect us that if you're in a really, a circumstance that was unforeseen by any of us, we should be the partner that steps in to try and help you. Don't buy guarantees, okay? Don't buy guarantees. Now, I've got some questions here that you need to write down because these really dig into how a company operates, and it really matters at this point. I tell investors to ask, do you defer maintenance? And, a lot of companies are going to say, what do you mean do I defer maintenance? What does that mean? Well, the biggest thing I can look at is a roof. So there's a roof up here that, it's got more than 5 years left on it. There's really no reason to replace this roof. But yet I know that I'm going to spend a few $100s because it's patchy. It's got some holes. It's got some wear. There's some waves in the roof. I can see there's going to be issues up there. How do you handle that scenario? And in a company that says, well, look, man, we'll patch this here and we'll patch that there. And, that you can get 5 more years out of that roof before you spend that money. In 5 years, a couple of $100s to roof repair here, a couple $100 for a roof repair there. We got a couple $100 to fix the sheetrock where it dripped inside the house. We got a couple $100 to fix the paint job over there. 5 years from now, I could have spent $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 just fixing little things that come up along the roof, and now I have to replace the whole roof for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. Why don't we just spend that on the front end, get it out of the way, and then not have to deal with it? Now I've got a 30-year roof instead of a 5 to 10-year roof that's going to cause little bitty issues along the way. That's what I mean by deferring maintenance. If you know something needs to be done, do it. That's the kind of company that I tell people to look out for. Now, if you disagree with that, if you're one of those that say, look, I'd rather have a lower barrier of entry, a lower cost, and spend that money out over time, my advice is this, and again, this comes through 2 decades of experience. For every $1 you save on the front end, you should budget to spend $2 on the back. So if you save $1 deferring maintenance, you're going to spend $2 somewhere down the line. It's all about how you want to spend your money. The next question to ask, how many properties do you manage? This is important. I want to know how many properties do you manage. Again, this tells me how long you've been in business and what type of management you provide to your investors. Do you own all the properties you sell? The reason why this is so important today is that there's been this cottage industry that's jumped up, and it is promotional turnkey companies. So they're not real turnkey companies. They don't actually buy anything. They don't sell anything. They don't renovate anything. What they sell, because there's always something for sale, is they sell a qualified investor to a turnkey company in return for a hefty fee. So you want to ask a company, do you own properties you sell? And if they say no, I just represent companies and their products out there and in their properties, in my estimation, you got to ask yourself, are they providing the service I really need? Are they just holding my hand because I'm nervous and I want somebody else to tell me that this is a good deal? Or which you pay for that. Whether they charge you or it's built into the price of the home itself, you always pay for that. Always. So, and for some people, that's a fee they're willing to pay, and that's fine. If they just want someone else's opinion, you're paying a very high price for that opinion. But if it's built into the cost of the house and you don't really feel it because you're wrapping it into a 30-year mortgage, knock yourself out. Do it. But for me, it's a red flag when somebody does not sell properties they own because they don't know what's going on with the process. They're not responsible ultimately in the end. If you're not happy with something, they're going to say, don't call me, call the turnkey company. I mean, I told you they were a good company, so, so they're not. Look, I'll stop doing any business with them. But I didn't sell you the house. I didn't make a lot of money on this. The money that I made from them, it's gone, Go to them to fix your problem. That's what happens. It goes back to the thing I said early on. It becomes that finger pointing thing that it's not my responsibility. It's someone else's responsibility. That's a real issue. How long have you been in business? I think we kind of covered that already with how many properties do you manage? Are you an investor? Somebody that says they've been in business for less than 10 years. No. I mean, they may be a good company. I'm not saying it's a reason not to do business with them. I'm just telling you that they're not going to have the knowledge or the experience and there's just too many companies out there, around the country that have been in business for a very long time. They've earned good reputations. They've learned best practices. They implement those on a daily basis. I'm not just talking about my company. There are other companies out there. So, I mean, I really do think that's something you got to look at. Anybody that started really 2011 and after, they started their company in the heyday, in the run-up. And so, and the closer you get to 10 years in business, the better. Anybody that's been in business less than 5, I don't know how you can move forward. But that's on you guys as investors. You make that decision. This is something I'm kind of cautioning about. So here's some great questions to ask. What's your average vacancy rate? Write it down. Somewhere later in the conversation, what's your average occupancy rate? Write it down. Somebody that says I've got 3.5% vacancy and a 99% occupancy, they don't know what they're talking about. Somebody that says I'm 1% occupancy, or 1% vacancy, I'm the best of the best, but they say on average I got about 95% occupancy. Again, they're off. They don't know what they're talking about. And this is a real life example. There was a company. They're here in Memphis. I knew exactly who they were. I had a guy reach out to me and say, can you help me out with this? I said, sure, what you got? And he's like, I want to vet this other company. Their price point's different than yours. I just feel like it matches me better. And I said, that's fine. That's no big deal. He said, but I'm struggling with some information. I said, well, what is it? He said, in my conversation with them, they told me that they have a 1.5% vacancy rate. And at the time, I knew our company was around 2.5%. And I knew how hard it is to get to that. I mean, it's virtually impossible. But 1.5%, fine, no problem. I said, okay. And then he said, when we talked about occupancy rate, they said it was 98.5. He's like, so everything kind of adds up there. He said they talk really smooth. They talk about customer service. They talk about the high-end renovations. They talk about how they've been in business, since the 80s. So they're 4 decades longer than anybody else. I said, I get it all. This is the marketing side. No problem. What's making you uncomfortable? And he said something about them just is off with me. And he's like, and I want to know, how do I verify this information? I said, well, have you gone to their website yet? And he was like, well, no. I said, well, go to their website. I was like, check them out. Do your own due diligence. You got to look around a little bit. He went to their website while I'm on the phone with him, and he's like, I went to their management company. I said, okay. He's like, it shows they have 198 vacancies. And I was like, well, that could be true. How many properties are they managing? He said, well, they told me 1,500. I said, well, 198 vacancies on 1,500 properties is over 10% vacancy. That's not 1.5. He's like, I know. And I pointed out to him, I said, this is why you ask the questions, and this is why you go and do your research on the back end. You get your questions, you ask your data. Whoever you're talking to, they're really smooth. They're good. They're selling you on them and the reason to do business with them, but you got to hold them accountable. You want to go and take what they tell you, and you want to trust it, but you got to verify it. Then he said, well, what else can I do? I said, well, why don't you go to the local newspaper or something like that and see if there's any ads out there. Go and find out if they're running ads for management. And he went and comes back later in that day and says, they've got an ad that says they have 200 plus vacancies that they run. It looks like they run it every single week. I said, well, there you go. I said, I don't know if they're 1.5% vacancy or not. I was like, it looks to me like they've got over 10% of their houses vacant right now. I said, maybe there's a reason behind that. Maybe the guy misspoke. I don't know. But you're right in doing your due diligence. And then my suggestion to him was, is it a reason to write them off? No. Call them up. Call them out on it. Ask them what's going on. Go visit them. See if your tingly feeling that you've got going on that this might not be good matches when you go to them. Do I feel good or bad when I meet them face to face? And ultimately, I have no idea if that guy bought from them or not. I know he didn't buy from us. We were not a right fit for him, which was really good. It's why it made it so easy for me to be able to help him, because we knew that we weren't the right fit. It's perfect. Not everybody's going to be right for every company, so you really need to spend time getting the right fit. I hope he eventually bought from someone. I hope he moved forward, and I hope it was successful. But the way he went about his due diligence, I thought was perfect. He did all the right things. So, I want to ask questions like, what's the average number of days a property is vacant between residents? So move out to move in. It's important. That tells you exactly how much rent you're going to lose every time you have a move out on average. I want to ask, what percentage of billed rent do you collect each month? Because it's almost impossible to collect 100% of every dollar you bill every single month. It's not impossible, but it's super difficult. And you have to have just a stellar relationship with your residents in order to do that. Most management companies, that's not on the top of their priority, having a good relationship. In fact, they consider them tenants, and they are a dime a dozen, and we can shift them in and shift them out. Many management companies, that's how they make their money, is through turnovers, because they get the turnover fee. So you want to know, how many leases that expire every month will renew their lease? How many leases fulfill their full term? When there is a move out, what's the average repair bill to bring that property back to market? And then you want to ask them, what's the average move out of the bill of the second move out? Does it go up or down? Because that's important. There's going to be, sometimes there is a greater cost the second time than the first time. You want to know if they're tracking that. You want to know what they do to keep residents happy. What programs do you have in place to keep residents happy? How much collected rent annually goes to maintenance? Ask them dollars and percentages. Ask them what customer service programs do they have in place for you. So as a customer that owns management properties, what do you do to keep me informed? Is it more than just some 24-hour website that I can log in and just see something that's out of context, without a lot of data? Or are you available to me? Heck, for that matter, do you call me every month proactively just to say, hey, just to let me know that my rent's been collected, or there's an issue with my house, or everything's great? Do you provide that kind of service? How many people in your company are dedicated solely to the service side, the service of the resident, the service of me as an owner? These are super important, valuable questions. Yes, my family's company is known as the customer service company. That's what we're known for. This is by other companies, other turnkey companies out there, other management companies call us the gold standard for management and customer service. I appreciate all that, because we thought about it years and years and years ago as we learned what people needed, what made the needle move. What makes the needle move is happy residents that stay in a home longer, paying rent, and taking care of the property. That holds down maintenance costs for the owner. That holds down move-out costs for the owner. That holds down vacancy for the owner, which drives up their return and makes it consistent and reliable on an annual basis. It's not rocket science. It's pretty simple. But a vast, vast, vast majority of the companies out there don't believe in it. It costs money to provide those services. It costs money to have people on your team whose only job is to provide a experience to you as an owner and an experience to the resident who most companies don't respect to begin with. There are multiple companies out there that we've, I'll call it masterminded with, that have come in and reviewed our company and tried to, learn best practices with us. There's multiple companies out there today that believe in the service model. So that's something you're going to be looking for. The last question, and this is the one that I think matters the most, it's the question that you should ask, and you should really be paying attention to the answer you get, is this: what's the biggest mistake you've made as an investor, and how do you protect me from making the same mistake? The reason why that's the most important one, because that requires a level of vulnerability that most people aren't willing to get into. I've shared it many times here. I've made a lot of dumb mistakes as an investor. As a company, we would tell you that we've made mistakes. Heck, I told you at the beginning, like our first 10 years, we weren't really good at renovating properties. We weren't especially good at managing properties. We had a lot of investors, and we had some that bought multiple properties because they saw the value and they saw us beginning to improve. But we had a lot of early investors that were one and dones. I mean, they just, the experience wasn't exceptional to them. There was no real reason for them to buy more. Anybody that tells you that they just don't make a lot of mistakes, they haven't made a lot of mistakes, their mistakes are like minor, dumb stuff, little bitty things that you're like, well, that's not much. I mean, the reality is that you're looking for, in my opinion, business owners, entrepreneurs, companies that they've been around the block. They've taken their lumps. They've got blacked eyes a few times. They know what it feels like to lose. They know what it feels like to make mistakes, and so they know how to avoid that. All the advice I'm giving you about guarantees. I bought houses that came with guarantees from the seller before that weren't worth the paper they were written on. They certainly weren't worth the handshake the seller gave me. Okay, that's why we say don't do guarantees. I sat there and listened to a man on stage. Sell the amazing job of selling properties he was doing in Detroit, and this was well over a decade ago. So I'm not knocking Detroit, but. And then I listened to him come tell me that I wouldn't buy this crap. I wouldn't own this for nothing. That's horrible. You need to understand as an investor that there's real danger to buying far from home. There's real danger to buying from somebody that has not earned your trust. There's real danger to buying from somebody you haven't met personally and had the chance to shake their hand and look them in the eye. There's real danger to that. Does it mean you're going to, make a mistake or lose every time? No, I'm not saying that. I'm just telling you that be aware, be observant, follow these rules, take these questions, take the answers I gave you, compile it into how you're going to go find the perfect investment for you, and then move forward. This is a perfect strategy to interview as many turnkey companies out there as you want until you find the one or the two or the three, whatever, that fits you perfectly to get moving forward to build your portfolio. That's what this is all about. You just heard me say earlier, we're not the right fit for everybody. Even everyone that's on this podcast listening or watching the video, we're not right for everyone, nor do I want to be. But what I want is to help everyone get pointed in the right direction to go have the success that you deserve to have. So, guys, with that, again, 3 podcasts in a row. I guess we're going to start moving to half an hour because I'm just so talkative and chatty. If you stay with me to the very end, I really, truly appreciate it. Send me your questions. Send me your comments. Guys, interact with us on social media. I love it. We're so appreciative of everything you do for us. Until we get a chance to talk again, guys, commit to the grind. We will see you soon.